Hey, this is Chris with Two Nerds Gaming. First, I want to introduce myself. A lot of the YouTube community isn't going to know who I am because I don't really post that many YouTube videos, channels, whatever. Like I said before, I don't believe in cuts. I will use them for things like battle reports, but generally, if I'm just giving you information, I want it to be fluid and natural. I don't want it to be me editing out a bunch of stuff. If I look retarded, I want you to see that I look retarded. If you're offended by my use of the word retarded, I am sorry. I'm not gonna change. It's a word that was used in common vernacular when I was a kid growing up, and I'm not gonna not use it just because somebody doesn't like it. Sorry, I didn't mean to cough up in your business. But anyway, a little bit of background about me. So some of you have no idea who I am, and then you saw my honest reaction to the Orc Codex, and you're probably thinking, who the fuck is this guy? And that's a fair question. It's fair. So I played 40K as a kid. I started in about 96, 97. Got my first box. It was Orcs. Fell in love. And then played through 3rd edition and 4th edition, and then stopped somewhere in 5th edition, I think. I might have stopped before 5th edition really came out, because I was in the military and I was on deployments. I did the invasion in Iraq with the 101st, and there was a period of time where I was deployed for about 26 months over the course of 4 years. So, you know, not a lot of time for games and stuff like that. I'm trying to look at the camera. It's just really weird, and I'm not used to it. So there's also that. But, you know, so deployments, yeah, so I've played. I stopped playing. I started dabbling in fantasy for a bit. Loved the shit out of that game. Got done with fantasy. Stopped playing for a couple of years, maybe a year or two altogether, just because there was a bad community. That's not gonna work. I mean, I know you guys can see my ratty little couch back there, and it's probably pretty gross, with some paper towels on it and shit, and that's just, like, that's my break room in my store, and I'll get to that. So, yeah, so it's a, it's what, you know, I've played war games. I've played a lot of different war games. Dabbled in a lot of different role-playing games. I've done a lot of different things. About 3 years ago, 2.5 years ago, my brother and I decided we were going to open a game store. We ran a music store, and it was not successful, I'll be honest. Like, we failed hard, and there was a lot of reasons for it. Also, this is the best coffee ever. Rabbit Coffee. It's my neighbor, but super good. But anyway, lot of game experience. We opened a game store a couple years ago. We picked up Games Workshop after the first year. So I've been a Games Workshop retailer out of my store in Knox. I'm not going to plug my store a lot on the YouTube channel. It's just not what I'm going to do. You guys know I own a store. There might be a link to our web store. I might mention it, but I'm not going to every episode be like, buy my shit. That's just not what I'm doing this for. You know, so I've always played Orcs. I've dabbled. I've played off and on for the last 20 years for probably a total cumulative time of 10 or 12 years. You know, so I'm not just some dude getting on YouTube talking out his ass just to be contrary to, like, what a lot of the major YouTubers are doing. So, that being said, I'm going to give you some initial reactions to... Oh, and I also do organize and run tournaments. Sorry, that's actually something I had meant to bring up. You know, so again, I'm not just some dude who's like, yeah, I know what I'm talking about. I watched a YouTube video. I saw it on Reddit. You know, I am not necessarily the best person in the world or the most qualified, but I'm certainly not the least qualified. So... some initial reactions after playing some games. So as everybody knows, the full codex basically got leaked on Discord about a week before the codex dropped, and you know, I went through it. I went through it all, and my overall reaction was it was about 33% buff, 33% nerf, and about 33% weird kind of sideways shuffle shimmy thing. And that still stands after going through it. Some of the things that were strong are still strong. Some of the things that were strong are just not gonna be good. And I mean, that doesn't mean that they won't ever be good. It just means, like, on paper they're not good. On the tabletop, you could change your mind. You know, there's some things I changed my mind about after playing the game on the tabletop with the new codex. That being said, played about 6 games. Started with Bad Moons because I thought, man, Bad Moons are going to be super good, and I'm sure they are. And super good is relative. Also keep that in mind. You know, but I'm sure they are. I'm sure they're going to be really, really strong in the hands of somebody who can put them to work in a good way. That is way outside my play style. I am not a shooty player at all. In fact, there's a common joke throughout the Warhammer community that I'm plugged into, you know, like my stores community and the local players, where you put an army in my hands and anything is orcs if I try hard enough. And, you know, at first it was funny, but then I realized it's actually kind of true. You know, I got my hands on some guard and still played them like orcs. You know, a lot of bodies, scream them up the board at 100 miles an hour, like, get in your face. I might not be charging as much, but it's still a lot of just, like, get in, get close, you know. My favorite Chaos Space Marine faction is World Eaters, because they're just better orcs. You know, so there's a lot of truth to that sentence when describing my playstyle. You know, so I'm not saying Bad Moons are bad. I'm saying they're bad for me. You know, and that's the other thing to keep in mind, is that just because something looks bad doesn't mean it's going to be bad. Somebody else who plays in that style might be able to make it work better. I still stand by the fact that snake bites are getting overhyped. I'm sorry, just having shittier versions of somebody else's rules just feels bad. You know, having to spend command points in order to get access to the full rule and getting a nerfed version of a rule just feels bad. And that's the way it is. Same with Ramshackle. One of my favorite things about the Orc Codex now and before is that there is a tool and a play style for almost every kind of player. If you like movement shenanigans and you don't want to have a clan culture, you can play Blood Axes, you know. If you like shooty, you've got snake bites. If you want to just bonk, you've got Goths. You've got if you want to play a really fast army that doesn't do anything, you've got Evil Sons. And then if you want like a Swiss Army knife type of army, I mean, that's kind of where freebooters seem to be. And that's actually more in line with my playstyle. I like multifunction units. And I also like units that are dedicated, don't get me wrong. But I like to have an army that has an answer for everything. And obviously you're not always going to have that answer, but I want to get as close as I can to it. That's also in my playstyle. So we're gonna dive into that, because Freebooters is where I've landed, and I think I even mentioned that before in the last video. I do enjoy their pirate kind of shtick and aesthetic. I really do. Always have. And like I said, yeah, I did mention it, because I even said, hey, you know, I'm not gonna lie to you, I'm not gonna bullshit you. They had poopy rules. I'm not gonna play an army with poopy rules and then pick a faction that also has poopy rules. I'm not gonna. I don't hate myself that much. I hate myself enough to play orcs. I don't hate myself enough to play shitty orcs, you know. So after about 6 games, my initial reaction is, overall, the army feels very much like it did before. Like, there's still a lot of that. You're just picking up models to shooting. You're just picking up models to fighting. They are a shoot first, charge first. Like, it just feels weird. You know, again, like Games Workshop talked about getting these armies in line with lore. Orcs still don't feel like they have resiliency. They just don't. T5. Let's dive into T5 real quick. Because after T5, we're going to go into Freebooters, and after that, we're going to dive into the list that I ran and what I would change on it and how I would approach it differently. So, T5. It's not a buff. absolutely is not a buff. And I know a lot of people in the local community that are Space Marine players that were just like, oh my gosh, T5, what am I gonna do? And I was like, y'all are dumb. Like, they're still not gonna have an armor save. You're still just gonna make me pick up models every time I shoot them. It's not that big of a deal. Hey, guess what, guys? They still don't have an armor save. I still just pick up models every time I shoot them, or you shoot them. It's exactly what I said. And with the leadership nerfs that have happened, and those were huge. So, and this is important that we dive into this. Old leadership mob rules where your leadership characteristic was equal to the number of orcs in your mob, or the number of orcs in any mob with, or any unit within 6 inches. Like, that might not be word for word, but it's close enough. So if you had 30 boys in a unit, your leadership was 30. If you had 10 boys in a unit, but there was a unit with 30 within 6, their leadership was 30. So, you know, you could fail leadership. It just wasn't likely. By and large, it was a mechanic that you didn't interact with until you got units of boys alone. It's almost like that's how they're supposed to be in lore. Like in big mobs, they don't run, but once their numbers dwindle down, that's when they start to run. Crazy. The new mob rule is a unit, and I did cover this last video, a unit under, a mob unit never counts as being under half strength as long as it's within 6 inches of a unit that's not under half strength, which effectively ignores the combat attrition modifier for being under half strength as long as you're within 6 inches of a unit that is not under half strength. So leaderships are failable. Orcs are going to run on ones until they're by themselves. Now, don't get me wrong, that's not terrible. It doesn't ignore combat attrition modifiers, so it can still be interacted with armies like Night Lords and some of the Drukhari that like modify leadership and stuff like that. So it still can be interacted with, which is fine, because they have the mechanic. There should be armies that interact with it. They shouldn't all be Space Marines where they just have core rules that your army just doesn't interact with. You know, there should be a way for this mechanic to work, because leadership is kind of an ass rule right now. So the fact that they're trying to get armies to interact with it is kind of cool. Why am I bringing this up? So I'm T5, all right. So, and I'm going to speak in generalities. I'm not going to give you exact maths. I'm not going to work it out right now. I'm drinking coffee. I'm obviously still going through my morning routine. So I've got 30 boys. They're T5. You've got 5 intercessors, and they're within rapid fire. You know, you got 10 shots, you're going to hit roughly 6 or 7 times, you're going to wound 3 times. I lose 3 orcs because I don't get a save. Cool. You know, so you have effectively killed 1 less orc than you would have if they were T4, which is about where I figured it would be. And then you decide to throw another 5 intercessors into them. Cool. So now you've killed 6 orcs. Alright. We're all together now. Orcs leadership is 6. If it's a knob, it's 7. So that's a on a 1 I pass. Otherwise, I just fail. Let's assume I fail. So you kill 6 orcs when you normally would have killed 8 between your 2 intercessors. I fail that leadership. I pick up an orc. So now we're up to 7, and now I've got 23 dice that I need to roll. Statistically, I should fail roughly 3 of them, maybe 4. So now I've gone from 6 orcs to 10 orcs gone. And that's assuming I'm within 6 inches of a unit that's not under half strength. So I've now lost 10 orcs to 2 units of intercessors shooting, not accounting for any kind of rerolls or bullshit like that. Whereas before, I would have just lost 8 orcs. Cool. So I'm on average going to lose more because of failed leaderships based on shooting. And again, I know this is like picking one specific unit or one specific army as the comparison, but let's be real, most players play Space Marines. That's what I'm going to play against most of the time. So, cool, I'm now just picking up 10 boys. Let's look at Necron Warriors. Super relevant. You can take those in blobs of up to 20. And if you're not taking 20, you're probably doing it wrong, or that is not a squad that's designed for shooting. It's designed for being action monkeys or something. So you've got 20 of them in rapid fire range. That's 40 dice that are hitting on 3s. Again, not accounting for any kind of special rules. 40 dice hitting on 3s. Out of that, you're going to get, what, 30 hits-ish? And it's probably not that much. It's probably like 25. I don't know. Roughly somewhere in that 25 range. Out of that 25, you're going to be wounding on 5s. So you're going to get maybe 6 wounds. So a squad of 20 warriors just kills 6. That's a failed leadership. I have now just lost 10 boys to 1 squad shooting. So again, like, when it averages out, they aren't any tougher than they were before because of how they interact with the leadership. And that's the issue. You know, yes, they're a little bit harder to kill for most guns, but at the end of the day, I still got to roll a leadership die that I didn't have to roll before. Don't get me wrong, there are some ways to kind of mitigate that. You've got the once per game strat to auto pass. You've got breaking eds, which is a 2 command point strat, which does a D3 mortal wounds to auto pass. Again, is an inherent ability that got stripped away and turned into a strat. So it's like, can we get off the T5 being good bandwagon and actually look at how the army interacts with the game? It's not that good. It's not that relevant. It's not bad, and it is a solid upgrade, but because of how leadership interacts with this army compared to how it used to, it's more of a sidestep than an actual upgrade at the end of the day. You know, and again, don't get me wrong, on the table is a little bit different than looking at the paper and the math. But y'all just need to calm the hell down about how good T5 is. You know, it's a marginally better stat bump. Especially when there's like armies that don't even interact with toughness. Drukhari have poison, you know, so they don't even interact with the toughness stat for some of their stuff anyway. So cool, glad I'm T5. And oh, you have AP, I'm just picking up models anyway. And then Admech, if you're playing Mars, auto wound on hit rolls of 4. Cool, glad I'm T5. And oh, you've got a character that can give them 1 AP. Glad I'm just picking up models anyway. So again, like, T5 isn't as good as everybody thinks it is. It's only good against base level Space Marines. Like, it's not good against any kind of like Redemptor or any kind of vehicle unit. You know, it's not even like, cool, your heavy intercessors are now wounding me on 4s instead of 3s. So like, alright, I lose 1 less boy, but I'm going to lose him in leadership, don't worry. You know, so it's still super easy for you to just wipe my squads. Now that we've kind of discussed the T5 buff, sorry, I'm still adjusting to how cameras work. Let's take a look at where I've landed. Like I said, I've dabbled with a couple of them. Obviously, Goffs are good. Freebooters is where I'm landing at because it lends itself to a lot of different play styles, and it's just really powerful. I got to play a game last night against a guy named Carl, and he's relatively new to the game. He's picking up on it really quick. He's running AdMech. He's got to learn some things. We're not going to jump into that right now. Ultimately, the bottom line was, you know, I have a lot more experience, so I beat him, you know. But that's really what it boiled down to. It wasn't the strength of the army or the weakness of the army. It was just, I've been playing this game forever, and he just started. And he and I had that discussion before the game, so don't think that I'm just shitting on new players. You know, he's on my team for the ATC tournament that we're doing in August. So I need to get him... I don't need to get him playing at a higher level, but he wants to be playing at a higher level, and I want him to be playing at a higher level, because while I don't mind losing the tournament, I don't want to be last. You know, like, first of all, I play orcs, I'm going to lose tournaments. It's just the way it is. Like, okay. So let's do a breakdown of my list. I took a war boss, and there's some dumb shit that I did in this list because I just didn't consider anything. Like, I just threw stuff in, took stuff out. This was like an initial, let's get models on the board. So I've got a war boss. He's got the power claw. He's not the mega armor, and the reason he's not the mega armor is because I don't have that model. Like, I have my Kip Ashed one, but I don't want to run it until I get the model. I want the actual model because he is super cool looking. I have the Black Reach war boss, which also is super cool looking. So he's got a power claw, and he's got his combi rocket, which I don't think I shot the whole game because I just didn't give two shits. Like, I'll probably just replace it with a Scorcha and be done with it. For his Warlord trait, I took Arda's Nails, which is -1 to wound, and I forget what the relic is called, but it gives him a 4-up invuln and halves all damage done to him. I fucking hate picking up models. Like, I don't like it, which is super weird because I play orcs, and honestly, the fact that I play orcs could be why I don't like it. Like, after playing an army where all I do is pick up models, I don't enjoy it. So, like, I want my units to be resilient. I don't want them getting blown off the board instantly. So I made him as resilient as possible. He still crumps. He's 5 attacks, 6 on a wah, which, again, anyway, I don't want to get back on that soapbox. 6 on a wah, hitting on 2s, strength 9, neg 3, 2 damage, because he's got the power claw. You know, so he's gonna crump. He does damage. He's not like disgustingly silly. And that's the other thing I've noticed is a lot of the melee weapons in this army just don't have a lot of bite. You're not getting 4 damage thunder hammers, and there may be something in there similar. I just haven't come across it yet, and I haven't looked at the Beast Snagga stuff that extensively, and that might be where all the high damage melee is. You know, and obviously the Kill a Claw is still a thing, so that's a 3 damage power claw if you take the relic. So. But no, he's good. Super good. And then I took a Big Mech and Mega Armor, gave him a custom Force Field, gave him a custom Shooter, and then he's got his Power Claw. And then I spent 2 command points to give him Brutal but Cunning. So it's like every time he fights, he gets bonus attacks equal to the number of attacks that don't make it to the damage step. So, oh, I missed a hit roll. There's a bonus attack. Oh, I failed a wound roll. There's a bonus attack. Oh, you made an armor save. There's a bonus attack. So, effectively what I'm trying to do, because a guy only gets 3 attacks, 4 on the wall. What I'm trying to do is make sure he gets his damage maximized. You know, and that might be a better thing to put on the war boss. But, like I said, I don't like picking up models. So that was my intent there, was to not pick up models. And there might be a better warlord trait for him. I might swap it out for the +1 leadership. Can't remember if that's a relic or a warlord trait for freebooters. Actually, I've got my book right here. Let's look it up. Because there's the freebooters have a relic and or a warlord trait. I don't remember which it is. The warlord trait. Yep. So it'll add 1 to leadership for friendly freebooters character or models within 6 inches. So I may swap it out for that because he's gonna be probably around some boys, and again, that'll help kind of mitigate some of that. And then while enemies are within 3 inches, they're -1 leadership and -1 combat attrition. So, you know, that might be worth taking. I did spend a command point to give him a relic and a warlord trait. The relic I gave him was the Dead Shiny Shooter. Didn't get to use it the whole game, but Jesus, it's a DACA gun, 10 shots, 14 in half range, and it's strength 5, neg 3, 2 damage, and he's ballistic skill 4. Gonna be relevant. Like, that thing's gonna shred. I took 3 units of 10 boys, each one of them in a truck. The knob had a kill saw, and I could give him a power claw. It doesn't matter. I don't know. It didn't... Whatever. Like, I don't think any of my boys actually made it to combat because fuck making 6-up armor saves, dude. And, you know, it may be a thing where I just need to point in 1 or 2 small units of Gretchen just for backfield objective grabbing. Again, like I said, this list didn't have a ton of thought put into it. I did take a Bone Breaker I put a kill cannon and 4 big shooters on it, but that was dumb. Like, it doesn't need all those guns. I started with it on the board too, instead of in the teleporter. So there's that. And inside of that, though, was 10 knobs with power claws and choppas. Because I believe you can replace the sluggo with a choppa, and then the choppa with a power claw, however that works out. So I had, you know, like an anti-vehicle weapon, and I had an anti-infantry weapon. So if I'm smacking a bunch of boys, I can just roll choppa attacks and hit on 3s. If I'm hitting a vehicle, I can do flat 2 damage, strength 10, hitting on 4s. But again, we're gonna kind of get into this because there's some trickery going on, some of the old trickeration. I got 10 def copters, and they're fuck man, they're so good. Those things have just like been the money maker every game. 5 war bikes, and a def dread, and 3 trucks. Yep. There we go. So that's my 2,000 point list. It's actually, I think, just a hair under. It's like 1970. It might be at 2,000 with like the big shooters, I think, is what put it up there. So, okay, I'll talk about what I'm going to change after I'm done talking about this, but let's talk about the game itself. So, I went first, and I generally, so I know like the big tournament meta is turn 1, you still have an advantage. I don't like going first most games. And it may be because of the density of terrain that we use on our boards at my store, in my venue. But I don't like going first most games. I like to go second. But also probably because I play such an assault first army that I want you to push up the board so that I can attempt to charge you. I'd rather charge you and knock you off of objectives and then have to deal with your counter than push up, get susceptible to your shooting, and then have to deal with that. So I went first. I had the Def Dread and the Teleporta. I had the Def Coptas and Deep Strike, and I think that was it. It sounds right, because the Def Coptas have their inherent Deep Strike ability. For secondaries, I took ROD, as they call it, Scramblers, Octarius Data, which, again, I'll talk about why I would have changed my list. I usually spec into it. I didn't, and then I just took it. There's one in the Orc Codex that's basically attrition, but only for the fight phase. I took that, and then I took Stranglehold. So, turn 1. So when I deployed most of my stuff in a clump. Like, all my boys were in trucks, my knobs were in the Bone Breaker, everything was in a clump. I did spend the extra points to, that's what it was, I spent the extra points to give my Bone Breaker a 5-up invuln. So, did that. So I just had like a bubble of trucks, and then most of my characters packed in the middle of them, so that that big mech could give a 6-up invuln to everything in the event that I didn't go first. Because Homeboy was playing AdMech and he had 2 Archaeopters, and I wasn't about to just pick shit up because I don't get to roll a die. Like I said, like that is the biggest frustration I have with this army, is that if a wound goes through, 90% of the time I'm not rolling a die, I'm just picking up a model. So, does not feel good. So I packed everything in tight because I wanted that 6-up invuln. I put the trucks in a way so that I could dump the boys out and then move them for Octarius Data. And that's exactly what I did. I dumped them out, moved them, swung the truck around so it could grab the objective itself, and then did the Scrambler action and blocked a lot of line of sight with my truck. The other truck peeled off the other way to head towards the other objective. And then the third truck pushed up midfield, grabbed one of the midfield objectives, and then at that point I already had Stranglehold because I went first. I had 3. It was a 2, 4, 6 objective board. So yeah, already had Stranglehold. Didn't do much shooting because my copters were in Deep Strike. I think I did like a little bit of damage with my kill cannon, like killed a couple rangers type of thing. Not anything drastic. Like threw some big shooter shots downrange. My bikes, I kind of held back a little bit because I didn't want them to die. My plan was to, so his turn 1, we'll get to there. So his turn 1, he pushed up. So one thing Carl's got to work on is he likes to castle a lot, and I think that's just a natural thing for people who play shooty armies when they first start playing, is they want to castle. So he's got everything in clumps. He's moving everything in these tight bricks. And that's an issue when you're playing against an assault army, because it's going to be able to multi-charge and just swing out. So he pushed up. His jets pushed up. They did what they do. Like, I think I had one truck on the board after his first shooting phase. My bone breaker died instantly to D3+3 las cannons. Like, he had 3 chicken walkers push up and he didn't screen them. And we talked about all this after the game, so it wasn't like I just beat him and then, all right, dude, go fuck yourself. You know, we discussed some of the things that he could have done better, like keeping his rangers in front of his chicken walkers so that I couldn't charge them. But his turn 2 was really solid and productive. He killed some shit. You know, I lost some boys. I think I lost, you know, it was good. I don't remember what his secondaries were off the top of my head. Engage on all fronts was one of them, because, like, those 2 Archaeopters, like, he can score that turn 1 really effectively. But, and we also talked about his list comp after the game. Like, probably drop one of them. They are really good. But, like, they're not necessarily amazing. So turn 2 came around. I scored my primaries, declared my WA, and this is where it gets interesting. So I declared the WA. My war boss had pushed up. Like, he advanced turn 1, he advanced turn 2, but now he can charge. My bikes advanced. They're, I think, 20 inches. So they just jumped the board. My knobs advanced up off the objective, because when he blew up the bone breaker, I put them in front of it, wholly within 3. So I'm trying to cheese it. He did, real quick, just a quick rewind. He did blow up one of my trucks. I believe that was his turn 2. So actually, we'll get to that. You know, so I pushed up. You know, so my whole army basically advanced except for the things that could shoot. And then my Defcopters came down and my Dread came down. The Dreadnought, I mean, I'm probably dropping it. It doesn't really fit what I'm doing. Not that they're good or not good, but it just doesn't fit into this list. It was more of a, I think I pointed in 3 and then started peeling them back and then just left 1. So Defcopters came down. Those things, fuck. So my first order of business was to shoot one of, because most of my stuff wasn't going to shoot, most of it advanced. My first order of business was to shoot one of his Archaeopters, just to kind of test the waters and see how they were going to do. I had, I don't know, it's 10 D3 rocket shots. Rockets are strength 8, neg 2, 3 damage. I did like 8 damage to that thing, you know, so that let me know about how I was going to fare against them. And I was just like, all right, cool, that can stay there. He's got like 2 wounds left, 4 wounds left, whatever it is. Don't give a shit. I've declared a WA. I can always try to charge it. We'll see. The other one shot at, what did it shoot at? I don't know. I don't remember what the other rocket shot at. Maybe his destroyers. That sounds right. Like, that is right. So I hit his destroyers with the first volley so I could wipe them with the rockets, and I did. And then the next unit of Defcopters, because now for the rest of the phase I'm +1 to all my hit rolls, my next unit of Defcopters were hitting on 4s into the Archaeopter, which is how I was able to get so many hits and wounds through. So now he's crippled, the other Archaeopter's full, and that's effectively my shooting phase. Like, that's it. Maybe a couple planks from some big shooters. That's it. Nothing major. Now, charge phase. I've declared my WA. I can advance and charge. First thing I do is charge his chicken walkers with my knobs. I don't multi-charge his rangers that are right next to him. I don't want that overwatch. That he's probably not getting a ton through, but like, not about that life. I told you guys I don't like picking up models. He decides not to overwatch, which is smart. Charge my bikes into a squad of rangers that had taken some casualties. He decides to overwatch there. I think he kills a bike, because those are 3 wounds and they're 4-up save. So he kills a bike. So I got 4 bikes left. War Boss charges, like, I don't know, some dumbass little character. I don't know what it was. He's on a 32 mil base, so it's probably some sort of tech priest or something. War Boss charges there, so like all my basically automatic charges are done. We need to get to the deep strike charges now. The one that doesn't matter is the Death Dread, so I just roll it. I get a free reroll. He fails it. Nothing happens. No big deal. I ramming speed his full Archaeopter with a unit of copters because he's already fired Overwatch. I get the 3 dice. I get the charge. They come in. They do their 2 mortal wounds or whatever it ended up being. And then I make the other charge with the other one. I roll it. I get like a 6 and a 2. I use the 1 CP to re-roll either dice, and it becomes a 3. And then they make the charge into the other Archaeopter. So now with the WA, everything is +1 attack. That's just army-wide, and then core units are +1 rend. First thing I do is fight with the War Boss. 6 dice, kill this dude. He'd already taken damage from the truck. Like, anyway, kill this dude. He dies. I'm able to consolidate into his Dune Rider. And now I'm +1 to hit across the board. So then the next thing I do is because he's like, I'm not interrupting, there's no point, I'm not gonna fucking kill anything, and that's fair. Like, he had no melee units, and his like hitting on 4s, wounding on 5s, he's not doing much, he's just like swing out. So the next thing I do is I hit the Archaeopter with like 2 or 3 wounds with my Def Copters, because those get 2 attacks each, but then because of the WA they get 3 attacks, but then each time you fight with their weapon you make 3 hit rolls per attack. So each one's swinging 9 dice. So I got 45 attacks, hitting on 2s, strength 5, neg 1. So I roll this bucket of dice, and I just shred that Archaeopter. It doesn't blow up. We go about our merry way. Actually, I think he made it auto-explode, if I remember right, and then do like 2 mortal wounds. So now I'm +2 to hit across the board. So now I pick my knobs to fight. Because now with their power claws, they're inherently -1, but they're +1 from the War Boss making them hitting on 3s, and then they're +1 from the Coptus killing the other thing making them hit on 2s. So I've got like 8 of them left from the Bonebreaker blowing up, times 3 attacks, because I'm hitting the Chicken Walkers. But it's 4 attacks because of the WA and their core, I believe. Let me make sure they're core. I would bet money that knobs are core. They friggin' better be. A lot of the infantry is. I mean, the bottom line is those things died. And they died good and hard. But because I was +2, I was able to hit him on 2s with power claws, which is super powerful. Okay, so they're actually not core, which isn't a big deal. Like, that just means they don't get the extra AP, which was fine. The AP wasn't what was important, it was the attacks. So they swung out, you know, 4 times 8, 32 times, hitting on 2s, wounding on 3s, neg 3, 2 damage. So just shit on that unit of Chicken Walkers, consolidated into 2 different units of Rangers. And then I swung out with the last of the Def Copters, and like, I don't know, I took his other Archaeopter from full down to like 2 wounds, so that thing was stupid bracketed, and now he's in a pickle because all his heavy guns are tagged, and he didn't bring anything to let him fall back and shoot with anything. So yeah, now like I said, he's in a pickle. Like, he's just jammed up in his deployment zone for a lot of his army because anything that pushed forward I just shit on. So no, Freebooters, and we only played like 3 turns, but Freebooters, phenomenal. And I'm already seeing different things that I can take to make them even sillier. You know, the shock attack gun, Big Mex went to ballistic skill 4. You can get a shock attack gun hitting on 3s, and it largely didn't change from 8th to 9th. So Look for competitive orc armies to probably run 3 of those in a freebooters, because they effectively have board range anyway, so you don't need the additional AP. They're already like neg 4, neg 5. They already have like 60-inch range, so Bad Moons just doesn't make sense for them unless there's some relic or warlord trait that can make them better. So yeah, definitely look out for Big Macs with shock attack guns in a freebooters army. That's going to be really strong. Rockets in a freebooter, like all the buckets of dice and high damage weapons that orcs can get are going to be really strong in this army, just because you're going to go from hitting on 5s to hitting on 4s. If they're on a Big Mac, you're hitting on 4s to hitting on 3s. So it's going to be really strong in this army. What this army lacks is the same thing most orc armies lack, and that's just some sort of invuln unless you take a custom force field. I haven't looked through the codex enough to know what all can take it now, because the Wasbomb Blastojet lost it. It only gives it to other vehicles. Aircraft specifically, sorry. Dakajets look really strong also, but we're not going to get into that. It wasn't in my list. So after playing through it though, I probably would take a unit of Storm Boys or 2 so that I can deep strike in for the Octarius Data or Scramblers. Because that's an easy 8 to 12 points a game if you do it that way. I wouldn't bring the Death Dread because one Death Dread is pointless. It is. You know, you can bring 3 of them in a unit and then they become a separate unit when they hit the ground. I believe they can take 4 guns still. I haven't like dug too deep into them because it's not a unit I've played with much, because they just I fucking hate picking up models and you just pick them up most of the game. You know, so Death Dreads aren't something that I've played with a ton, but you could give them 4 guns if I remember right. And I mean, 4 custom Mega Blasters on a Death Dread in a Freebooters army, dumb. Especially if you took 3 of them, that's 12 custom Mega Blasters, that's 12 D3 effectively Melt-A-Shots coming out of cans. Or not cans, dreads. And with the dreads, oh shit. With the dreads, and I'll cover that oh shit in a minute. You're probably gonna kill something. You can get them hitting on 4s. That oh shit was me realizing that cans don't gain the benefits of cultures, but they still have the Freebooters keyword, if I remember right. Because I think Gretchen still get the keyword, they just don't get the benefits. I know I said I don't believe in cuts, and I don't, but like evidently sometimes I'm retarded and just hit the keyboard. They do get the keyword for the clan. So if a can unit kills a unit, all your other units can benefit from the culture. That's pretty cool. Still wouldn't take cans, they're too expensive for what they do and what they don't do. So there's that. But yeah, that's the list. Things I would change, like I said, I'm gonna drop the Death Dread. I might change the relic or the warlord trait on the Big Mac, and I might even change the relic on my war boss just to make them a little bit more killy. I don't know. I don't like the beat stick bosses because, again, I just don't want to just pick him up. Like, sorry, it's not what I want to do. I might figure out a way to take an unit of Gretchen just as a backfield deep strike screener and an objective grabber. They're still only 50 points. The issue is that they don't get armor saves now, and they're just they're worse than they were. But for 50 points, I can throw them on a backfield objective and do a thing. Outside of that, the war bikes are really, really good. I just don't know if they have a place in my current list. I'll have to play around with them a little bit more. They are super good though, so it's like it's really hard to justify not bringing them, even in just a squad of 5, because of how good they are. Knobs, the unit of knobs was money. I won't take them out. That was just dumb. I would drop all the guns off the Bonebreaker. It's effectively useless. I would put it in the teleporter, drop it down, auto charge with not auto charge, but effectively auto charge with ramming speed, and you know, just crump. You know, let that thing just dump and then turn 3, get those knobs out. Because the one thing I've noticed is with those knobs and that bone breaker, people are really leery about blowing that thing up because of what's inside it. You know, if you kill it, you have to deal with what's inside it, and if you don't kill it, you still have to deal with what's inside it. So I've noticed that people are really touch and go on that thing. Obviously, like, certain armies can deal with it better than others. Like Redemptor spam for Iron Hands, like, okay, cool, I'm just swinging a bunch of 1 damage attacks and I'll just go fuck myself. So there's that. But I don't know about the custom force field. I may try to point in a second one, just so I have a little bit more mobility and flexibility with it, and see how I like that. It's a lot. Like, the base dude is 85 points. The mega armor version is 115, I think it comes out to. So it's a lot of investment for something that you may not get a lot of utility out of. So I'm gonna play test it and see how I feel about it. All in all, like, Freebooters for my play style feels like the best culture. You know, some of them are arguably better. Like, Goths could be better. Snake bites, I don't know. Like, y'all are on some whack-ass drugs that are high on them. They're solid, but having a culture that only interacts with specific guns or specific things just feels bad. You know, when Goths get their culture basically every time they charge, feels good. When Freebooters get their culture bonus every time they kill a unit, feels good. Death Skulls get their culture every time they shoot or fight, feels good. You know, losing the invuln hurts them, but whatever. Bad Moons, their culture's always on, feels good. Evil Sons, their culture kind of sucks now compared to what it used to be, but because it's always on, still feels good. And then you've got Snake Bites, and their culture is always on as long as it's strength 7 or weaker things shooting at you, and it just doesn't feel as good. And it only affects, let me rephrase, it only affects strength 6 and strength 7 attacks and poison weapons. Doesn't necessarily feel good knowing that your culture doesn't interact with the game as much as some of the other ones. So that's my 2 cents on it. Again, another long-winded video. I'm kind of a talker, you know, but now you guys have a little bit of a sense of who I am, rather than just being some dude in a fucking bandana complaining about the new War Codex. So there's that. Outside of that, if you have any questions, you can feel free to leave a comment. You can message me through my store's Facebook. I don't care. It's Vorpal Gaming. Feel free to hop on Facebook and message me and be like, yo, dude, you're a piece of shit and you don't know what you're talking about, or whatever it is you want to say. Definitely comment. Tell me what your thoughts are below, and I will probably be doing another video on Monday, just to kind of recap any changes I might have made in the list. And I'm going to start posting lists in the comment section, or at least a link to them, like maybe like a Google Doc of them, so people can kind of see what I'm doing. And then also, hey, if you like t-shirts and stuff, I've got a Teespring store. It's pretty small right now because I design everything that's in it. And so, like, there's probably like 3 designs in there. But there's some cool stuff in there. There's going to be a link below for that. And then there's a link below for some other shit. I don't know. Oh, my podcast. There we go. Link below for the podcast. It's on Anchor. A lot of these videos are going to get the audio ripped and moved over to Anchor also. So there's that. And then I think that's it. I think we're all good. So I'll talk to you guys later.